Let's bring in the Chief Executive of the Australian Industry Group, Willox. Ines, let's focus on the GDP. Obviously, the events in South Korea impacting the markets and global uncertainty with that issue. But on the GDP number, first of all, can I get your reaction to what you're seeing with that anaemic growth, 0.8% for the quarter? Annually, with those quarterly numbers.
And 0.3% for the quarter. So we're seeing the economy slow. It's a pretty dispiriting set of numbers, disheartening set of numbers, really. What we're seeing is the slowest annual growth now since the early 1990s, 35 years almost, apart from the pandemic, and we now have the slowest growth since 2020. So our economy is slowing. You take out the massive increase in government spend since June onwards, you take that out, and through the quarter that we're just talking about, there's no doubt that the non-government sector of the economy, the private sector, is in contraction, and you could then argue it's in recession given the numbers that we saw in the previous quarter. So the government would argue that they're holding up the economy through government spend at the moment, but what we've seen since June, Kieran, is a 17% reduction in tax receipts and a 3% increase in government spend. Those numbers don't add up. And that's not a productive spend overall. And we're seeing that through the economy, which is really slowing.
Is the counter to that without that public demand, unemployment would be higher?
Well, without that public spend, there's no doubt we're seeing a big transfer in the employment market between the private sector and the public sector at the moment. All the data is indicating that. The unemployment level is flat, around 4.1%. But within that employment market, there's a big transfer going on from the private sector, who are shedding jobs, to the public sector, who are picking up jobs. The issue here is that, are they the productive jobs we want? And you've seen this huge increase in government spend, particularly through Queensland and Victoria. In the lead up to the Queensland election, Victorian government spending a lot of money on infrastructure. Yeah, that's really sort of changing the weight and the balance of our economy at the moment, and you can see that starting to flow through in this data.
Does the RBA need to cut rates sooner?
Well, the RBA is obviously going to have to look at this data and see what the underlying strength of the economy is. The point here is that the economy is a little bit all over the place at the moment because of that government spend that we're seeing. It's distorting what you would call sort of normal economic practice at the moment. You've seen a savings occur by households through the quarter that we're just assessing at the moment. Then it looks like they've spent it in October, November. Retail sales look pretty strong for Black Friday. So where the economy is at is going to be a pretty hard exercise for the RBA to work through.
And probably looking at that first number in February.
Yeah,
it's a guide.
That will be a very important number to where the RBA goes on rates and relief. But the RBA looks at long-term trends. They just don't look at one number. They look at long-term trends, and they've reiterated that. But the real problem we have here for the economy is that the private sector, which is the engine room of the economy, is slowing quite dramatically.
GDP measured on a per capita basis has contracted for 7 straight months. So in real terms, in people's daily lives, it feels like a recession.
Well, if it walks like a duck, it talks like a duck, it's a duck. So for a lot of people, we feel like we're in recession. A lot of components of the economy feel like they're in recession and have done for some time. Construction, retail in particular. Mining is reporting that they're going backwards as well. They're softening. So there is...
That retail number last week, was that just a blip, do you think?
Well, it sort of was counter to what we'd sort of seen in the past. So this might be the accumulation of people using their savings that they've got through the government rebates to spend. Now, does that turn into a trend? Too early to tell. But the fact is, Kieran, that households are feeling a lot of pain. The economy is going backwards. We're seeing a lot of cost of living pressure on households and a lot of cost of business pressure on businesses.
Willox from AIG, great to get your thoughts as always. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Kieran.